Clones, 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 clones. Hello my friends and welcome back to Player Display for a look at one of my favorite clones of all time, being Scorch from the GameStop exclusive Gaming Greats Black Series line. Jeez, can they cut that out a little bit? It's a little bit long for us. So this clone is of course best known for his appearance in Republic Commando, which featured 4 awesome clone troopers to feature in our clone army, and that of course was Boss, Fixer, Sev, and now Scorch. I believe they came out in that order over the course of 1 or 2 years, and this guy is bar none my favorite of the 4. So I pre-ordered him some months ago, and then finally he was processed and sold, and now here we are with Scorch in the new green packaging, which we have not looked at yet. We've seen the comic book version of this, but this is what you can expect for most mainline releases. I mean, technically this is not a mainline release, this is a Gaming Grades version, but you know, potato, who the hell cares? Looking at the box, I mean, even though it no longer has the window, it still looks absolutely gorgeous. You have the portrait of the figure there, Star Wars The Black Series at the top, big old holographic Gaming Great sticker right there, Star Wars Republic Commando, then you have his RC number there, which is always cool to see. Got Scorch. On the side, I am very glad they're continuing with that side motif that they had on the window boxes. So if you still have the boxes for the other 3 clones, then you can add Scorch. Then finally you can complete that mosaic. I no longer have the complete boxes, but I did save the inserts, so I'm definitely going to put them all together. I'll have a nice little mini poster to put somewhere. Over on this side, you have him vanilla posed up, kind of as we've seen before on the Hasbro green boxes. You also have this big old green sticker here to tell you that this is a green packaging. No, it's actually not a sticker. It's printed right on, so no plastic there. But there is plastic on the tape, so a little bit hypocritical, but who the hell cares? On the back, you have Scorch once again holding that awesome anti-armor rifle. Go ahead and push in. We get our nice bios right there. Very valuable if you are not familiar with the game. Going on downstairs, you get your warnings along with your -3.
Start audience!
Flipping it to the bottom, you get your barcode, more warnings, and down here you get your usual
green arrow.
Aslan.
C.
You
Canada.
21.
EA.
This might not be DC, but of course you usually get your
I am Superman.
Now, as excited as I am to be finally completing my Delta Squad, these figures are not without their controversy. Of course, they're best known for their Republic Commando game, where they were a lot more jacked, they were a lot more beefy, but here you get the recycled Hunter body mold from Bad Batch, and that makes them a lot more slender and inaccurate to the game. But at the same time, you can kind of forgive this figure because these clones did cameo in the Clone Wars show, where they were more streamlined and did have that more basic clone trooper armor where they weren't as buffed up, you know? It's kind of a bittersweet experience getting these figures, but at the same time, I love my Republic Commando, so I'm still happy to get them, and then I can also do some custom paint work once I receive them. Also, if you go online, I think there's some third-party goods like shoulder pauldrons, extra weapons, and stuff like that to chunk out their arsenal a little bit more. Once we get to the inside, you get that very divisive cardboard paper body bag presentation. Yeah! Looks like we have 2 baggies here. The first one we have looks like it has its accessories. Ripping that right open, no need for scissors, quite easy. Oh, well, here's your anti-armor. Ooh, this one actually has some paint apps. That's really nice. Loving this guy already. And you have his very cool backpack. It looks a little bit warped, but it actually is not. It is supposed to flare out a little bit, so we'll have a little look at that. Then let's go ahead and take out this deceased-looking clone from his cardboard prison. It looks like the feet are actually exposed, so it might help to bend them in a little bit. I can pull them right out, then sheath him out of there, and ooh, very, very sharp. Alrighty then. Even though all the clones from Delta Squad share the exact same body mold, Scorch, even though he's my favorite clone in the game, he is also my favorite figure that closes out this quadrilogy, mainly because he has, first of all, a lot more paint and interesting stuff going on, and second, he has a lot more accessories out of the rest of them, so let's go ahead and have a look. The head sculpt is nothing new, we've seen this before. Frankly, if you review one Republic Commando, you're you've reviewed them all except for the paint apps and the weapons they come with. But yeah, you get your usual Commando head sculpt, which is very beautifully detailed. I mean, you get all the grooves, you get sort of that T-shape in the back of most clone slash stormtrooper helmets. Really nice profile that definitely tells you what video game this is from. And then, of course, the selling point here is that really beautiful shiny T-visor. I was really torn as to whether or not when I got this whole bunch of figures, whether or not I'd want to paint the visor, because now that I have all four, I'd love to weather them in tandem with the same dirt, the same battle damage, and all that. But honestly, it's kind of grown on me. I really love how this has come out, and I think it's pretty much identical across the other three, so we'll have a look at that when we do size comparisons. But head sculpt, absolutely excellent. Really like it a lot. And I like how it's not just a perfectly solid white. It has sort of a beigeness to it. It looks like it's a little bit dirtied, which is nice. He's not as shiny. Going down to the torso, again, it's just that hunter body sculpt, which is a little controversial, again, because there are some people where they're like, hey, it's kind of a bonus clone from the Clone Wars show. Not a big deal. You're just kind of good for army building or whatever. But of course, if you know the games and you're like, they should have more shoulder pauldrons, they should be chunkier, Scorch should have that microchip shoved up his ass. But unfortunately, that's not what you get here. But personally, I'm okay with it. For me, it's just another template for more customizing opportunities. But for Scorch, you do get a little bit of brown dirt going on, some scoring. You also do have some gray paint apps, which are a little bit worn as it meets the white, which implies that you kind of spray painted it on, or someone did. I don't know who applies the paint to clone armor. Maybe the Kaminoans? I don't know if they're that artistic or nothing. Shoulder pads, again, they kind of have that yellowish tone. It's actually looking a little more yellow on camera than it is in person. I wouldn't call it slate white. Maybe the face is a little bit more so. But on the shoulder pads, definitely more of that yellow tint. On the back, of course, you get that really big old hole in there for the backpack that we'll look at in a minute, with a continuation of the gray. I really like the yellow color scheme that continues from the arms downward. Gives them sort of a bumblebee feel, and it just looks really sharp. Again, a little bit of weathering, I think, will help to make this guy punch out a little bit more, but even without it, it helps him stand out a lot more from his brothers. Then going down to the hands, as much as I like them, the sculpts are very nice. I really do wish that each one of them came with that little, wrist blade, because you know how I feel about wrist blades. I always love them. Going down, the details continue with that brown dirt. But then on this leg over here, you have this big old pack. I wouldn't even begin to be able to tell you what that's for. I'm not sure if that's like for the anti-armor or what, but we don't see him ever using it in the game, but it is game accurate, so I am very happy to see that. It is a separate piece, but it seems like it's glued in on the inner thigh right there, so it's not going to be sliding all over the place as you're moving them. On the back, not a whole lot else to see. More of that gray. Doesn't really have that airbrush feel as it meets the white. Another thing I forgot to mention, this is a mainstay across all four of the clones, but you have that little hole in there. That is, of course, left over from Hunter, who had that knife sheath going on in there, so it's not a big deal for most poses. I mean, when you're putting the arm up this way, you're going to see it, which it stinks a little bit, but it doesn't irk me too much. I mean, it's just another little detail for this very unique clone commando design. Then going down to the feet, you get more of a merge between that gray and the white and the yellow, and I just really love the color palette. Like, as I said before, if you're going to recycle a base body, at least justify its existence through nice paintwork, and this guy for sure is my favorite of the four in that regard. And then down to the shoes, again, you get that 3 color palette thing going on, and yeah, overall visually just a really cool figure. Moving on to accessories, I guess we'll go ahead and start with his backpack, for which I do not know what it's used for. He is the demolitions unit within Delta Squad, so I assume maybe he opens this up, he has all his explosives and technology. I'm really not too sure. But again, more of the yellow, more of the gray, more of the white, a little bit of scoring, and it looks really good. And I also really like the blue bits up there. Kind of makes me want to use a little bit of that Space Beams glow-in-the-dark paint. throughout the 4 of these figures to get them glowing a little bit. I think that would look really cool, especially down here. There's definitely meant to be some blue. And I think also the Orbish numbers to indicate their unit name, so that would be really cool. Before we saw 2 of the standard DC rifles that came with Fixer and Boss. Then we had the sniper rifle for Sev, and then at least we get one more unique weapon in the form of the DC weapon with the anti-armor attachment. And what makes this one unique from the other 3 weapons that we got is this actually has some paint apps. We have some white on the top, then we have some gray on the anti-armor attachment. So I really love that, but at the same time, I feel like it makes an inconsistency with the rest of the weapons, which are kind of just in their base plastic, no silver wash or anything like that, or weathering. So that's kind of a bummer. You gotta go back to those weapons, then paint them so they can match the superiority of this weapon here. But it really does look good. I'm very happy that we got one. Though I do kind of wish that they had some pistols, again, those wrist blades. It would have been really nice if they pimped these guys out a little bit more. Getting everything on here, there's no way we're going to have a problem. I mean, you got the little T key right there, peg that right on the back, no wobble at all, not shaking off, nice and standard, builds out that profile, that silhouette a lot more, which I really love, makes him look like the chunkiest of all the clone commandos, which I really appreciate. And then over here, you have his anti-armor attachment, rifle rather, over here, and then you plug that right into his hand, and then he holds it just fine. Let's get him dual wielding it with both hands. And yeah, he looks pretty damn awesome. Loving him a lot. Here we are at the most boring segment of this video, which is going to be articulation. I actually haven't reviewed any of the other 3 on this channel. I actually owned them before the channel started. But, I mean, it's the same for all these figures, including Hunter. But anyways, you get your 360 swivel. You have down, up, little bit of tilt. You have those shoulder pads pinned into the peg for the arm, so the arms do a full 360 and the shoulder pad travels with it. You have that much up, which is pretty crazy. You can't deny that this figure does have some great articulation. Goes back down. As for the elbow, just past 90, thanks to a nice deep cut that you have inside. Also has some swivel going on. This wrist swivels, then it goes in and out. As for this one, it goes up and down, as it should for the blaster rifle. As for the torso, single ball, does its swivel, kind of clicky in there, but not a big deal. Goes forward a little, goes back a little bit more, has some good tilting action, nothing in the waist, legs kick out that far. They go nothing at all back. It pretty much gets stuck right on the leg armor right there. But you get a good amount of forward. It doesn't V out too much, so he could do some kicking down some door action.
FBI, open up!
Knees are single jointed, but again, it's kind of those new joints where it has a deeper cut that allows him to go a little further past 90. As for the ankles, they have no swivel, but they can go down, they come up, and then they've also got some rock. Looking pretty sweet. Finally, here we are with a complete Delta squad, and even though they all recycle the same body, they still have different weapons, they still have different backpacks, and honestly, the thing that really makes the set amazing is the paint jobs. I mean, come on, this is a striking set, and that allows me to totally forget the fact that they're all reuse. They just look absolutely gorgeous together, and it's very nostalgic. I will mention that the one difference between Scorch and the rest of these guys is I did use Gundam markers to panel line them, so I'm going to do the exact same thing to Scorch, and then from there on out, I'm going to go ahead and then do all the weathering, chunk them up with some extra third-party kits or something like that, and I don't know, I'll see where that goes. Now let's go ahead and see besides some other clones from various properties, mainly from the Bad Batch. Over here we have Wrecker along with Omega. Then over here we have Clone Commander Bly, who's pretty much our standard when we're doing our size comparisons, especially with clones.
We don't all look alike!
And then over here, of course, we have Imperial Crosshair. And lastly, here he is next to my retooled Arkham Knight Batman, along with Marvel Legends Webman. A lot of mans here, apparently. And then, of course, Black Series Muck Muck. But you stood alone. different from the clones. Even though I know for a fact that Hasbro could have gone out of their way to give these guys the proportions and the accessories we wanted, and also the fact that GameStop basically tricked me into paying $25 for the exact same thing 4 times in the past 2 years, and that's excluding shipping, these are still really cool figures to have together. And still, I'm not angry at these figures. They still look remarkable. For me, it really is the paint and the accessories. That's what makes them distinct. You go, yep, that's Boss, that's Scorch, that's Fixer, that's Sev. Definitely, there's a lot of customizing stuff that's going to go on here later on after this video. But all in all, I'm really happy, especially with Scorch. He's my favorite clone, and you know what? They did my boy good. He's the most beefed out of all of them. He has the most unique weapon in terms of paint. The overall paint scheme is my favorite paint scheme, and I think it's the most well executed out of the 4. And he just looks really cool. He adds a lot of flavor to this collection. So if you enjoyed this review, then as per usual, please be sure to like, comment,
And subscribe. Or anger a dark lord of the Sith.
rock on, and I will see you all later. And then you look at them and you go, yup, that's Boss, that's Scorch, that's Ficker. Ficker? What's Ficker? It still bugs the crap out of me that they didn't use Scorch's classic voice in the show. I mean, I love D. Bradley Baker and all, but it really makes me poopy-faced about it.
Why do we always get the tough jobs? Why won't these guys quit? Why won't they just die? I need a vacation.